Hey, welcome to Journey Through John. I hope you read John 6, 1 through 15 about Jesus feeding the 5,000. In each of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, there are different stories and different miracles told in those Gospels. And this is the one story that is, and one miracle that is represented in every single one of the Gospels. So after reading John 6, 1 through 15, I then went and looked at and read this miracle from Matthew's perspective, Matthew 14, verses 13 through 21, Mark's perspective, in chapter 6, verses 30 through 44, and Luke's perspective, chapter 9, verse 10 through 17. And boy, I was so fascinated to see this miracle from 4 different perspectives. It reminds me, there's a children's book, and I need to find out what the name of this children's book is. And I believe the 2 characters are arguing about what an object is because they are looking at this object from different perspectives. And this is not an argument by the disciples of Jesus. This is just retelling of what is happening from their vantage point. And so we learn much from their perspectives. We learn much from the context in which the story is told. In fact, you don't know this from John, but after reading the other Gospels, this miracle occurs right after John the Baptist has been beheaded. And from what I gathered, and this is just from my own layperson's perspective, that the disciples were sent out. Jesus gave them all power and authority to heal, and they were teaching about the kingdom of God. Meanwhile, John the Baptist has been beheaded. They all return to Jesus and they tell him all that they've seen and heard and done. They've also shared about John the Baptist. So Jesus decides, let's go away to a desolate place. They go away. I imagine they are extremely exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually, because they've poured out. Plus, they're grieving. They're grieving over the news of John the Baptist. So Jesus says, let's go away. Let's go away to refuel. So they go away, and almost every one of the Gospels share that they go to a desolate place. So it must be out in the countryside. We know it's still by the water because they go by way of boat. And one of the Gospels says that they go by way of boat, and the people on their feet run ahead of them to catch up with them on the other side. They go away to refuel and heal, and the people follow. And when they arrive to the remote location, Jesus sees the people, and he is moved with compassion. He, by way of learning from all the Gospels, he teaches them about the kingdom of God. He heals those that are sick. And then the day grows late, and the disciples recognize the lateness of the day. They say the people need lodging and they need provisions, meaning food. Jesus in John says, he says, where are we to buy bread so that these people may eat? But in the other Gospels, he says, go feed them. And the disciples make excuses. Well, we don't have enough. We have very little. What are we supposed to go spend 200 denarii to feed all these people? In John, it actually says 200 denarii worth of bread would not be enough for each of them to even get a little. But Jesus commands, feed them, have them sit down. The disciple says, well, we only have 5 loaves of bread, and in John it says barley loaves of bread, and 2 fish. Now, not every gospel mentions the 2 fish, but John does. And Jesus does the impossible. He looks up to heaven. He blesses them. He blesses the bread and the fish, and he gives it to the breaks the bread and the fish to the disciples, and then all eat and are satisfied. Every one of the Gospels say all ate and were satisfied. Every single one of those accounts of this miracle states that there were 12 baskets of leftovers, and more than 5,000 were fed. There were 5,000 men, plus women and children. I'm so glad that I didn't rush through this miracle. I'm so glad I went and read it from all different perspectives, and I am standing in awe that Jesus, in the midst of pure physical, emotional, spiritual exhaustion himself, along with the disciples, and remember, Jesus was fully man and fully God. In the midst of his exhaustion, their exhaustion, they were moved to compassion, and they provided more than enough and satisfied the people, not just physically through food, but spiritually, and fed them. And once again, just like the water to the wine, Jesus is our provision. He is enough for us. He sees our needs. We think we can't make it another day, but he says, I will provide for you. I am enough. Will you allow him to be enough for you today? I encourage you to read all those perspectives and then go on to read John 16 through 21, 6:16 through 21 on Jesus walking on the water. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to read the other perspectives because they are also mentioned in other gospels. I hope you have a great day. Take care.